is Dr. Oladapo Olanipekun. He's here represented ably by Dr. Kubi Udofia, partner at Babalakin and Co. I will give a short bio for Dr. Olanipekun, and then we'll move on straight to his topic. Dr. Kubi will be talking on his behalf on legal practice, changing phase and phase. Dapo is the lead partner at Esha and Macorius, where he heads the Dispute Resolution and Policy Advisory Groups. He is the editor-in-chief of the Banking and Financial Law Reports and also the chairman of the Advisory Board of the Constitutional Rights Awareness and Liberty Initiative. Oladapo was elevated to the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria, SAN, in 2015. Until September 2019, he held the record of being the youngest person ever to be elevated to that rank. Please welcome to the podium on his behalf, Dr. Kubi Udofia.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to stand on the well-established protocol. Can I have my slides, please? Gentlemen, I'm here representing Dr. Dapo Olanipekun, who would have absolutely loved to be here today, but is unable to make it due to circumstances far beyond his control. But he sends his warmest regards both to his lecturers, former lecturers, and distinguished colleagues. So without further ado, I'll go straight to his presentation. And I must say right from the onset that these presentation or slides were prepared by Dr. Dapo himself. So I'll try my best to share his thoughts. Please, can I have the presentation? So, Doctor has been mandated to speak on the topic legal practice, changing phase and phase. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. So from the outset, his view is that legal practice is changing. Is legal practice changing? His answer is an emphatic yes. So there's a quote there by Peter Drucker. I believe these slides will be shared subsequently, so I wouldn't go into some of these quotes. In order to save time, I've been told I have just 1 hour to speak. So, there's a quote here by Richard Susskind, and I believe this is from his book. It says, it looks prophetic, but I believe these are things that are happening now, though he says something about, in the next 2 decades, in 20 years' time. Legal market is in a remarkable state of change. In less than 2 decades, the way in which lawyers work will change radically. Entirely new ways of delivering legal services will emerge. New providers will be firmly established in the market, and the working of our courts will be transformed. These are happening already unless they adapt. Many traditional legal businesses or traditionalists will fail. On the other hand, a whole set of fresh opportunities will present themselves to entrepreneurial and creative young lawyers. I believe there are 3 main drivers of this change. First, the more for less challenge. Second, liberalization and technology. Of course, in his presentation, Dr. Dapo has about 9 drivers of change, apart from these 3 mentioned by Richard Susskind. Lawyers and change. Dapo's belief, and the belief of most people out there, is that lawyers are traditionalists. They are resistant to change. They are advocates of customs, advocates of the way things are done. Ideas should be maintained. And this is typified by the concept of, or the doctrine of, judicial precedent. Here, Dr. Dapo said that a typical approach of lawyers is to use the past to control the future in the quest for certainty and predictability, of course. This is what we call judicial precedent, which all of us are conversant with. The philosophical underpinnings of judicial precedent are now being questioned in modern legal philosophy. Of course, there are criticisms against judicial precedent. Which one of them is mentioned? They're using the past to determine the future, that it's a bit rigid. It doesn't allow judges to express themselves or even lawyers to express themselves. I mean, you can weigh this with the advantages or merits of judicial precedent. So there's a quote here from Lord Denning. In the case of Packer and Packer, it was a divorce case. You can see it is a very popular case. I think it was started in 1953. 2 England Law Report, page 121. There Lord Denning said something. He said, what is the argument on the other side? Only this, that no case has been found in which it has been done before. That argument does not appeal to me in the least. If we never do anything which has not been done before, we shall never get anywhere. The law will stand still while the rest of the world goes on. And that will be bad for both. So again, I said, like Dapo expressed before in the previous slides, there's a perception that lawyers are naturally traditionalists. They are resistant to change. And you can see here in some of these quotes that lawyers are rhinos. They think they have thick skin, short-sighted, and always ready to charge. And then you have AP Habet saying, let's find what everyone is doing, and then stop everyone from doing it. And then, of course, this is from Jesus Christ of Nazareth. He was talking to the then professors of law, with profound respect to our professors here, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He said, woe unto you lawyers, for ye have taken away the key of knowledge, ye entered not yourselves. And then, and them that were entering in, he hindered. Legal practice changing face and face. So Dr. Dakwe is of the view that the reality is that legal practice is changing face and face. His position is that the providers and consumers of legal services now have different characteristics and different expectations. For instance, before now, a lawyer was just expected to have a deep knowledge of law, to be a courtroom sir, but now it goes beyond that. You're meant to have a deep knowledge of the business of your clients. You're meant to go into business or legal, what they call legal business consulting. So it just goes beyond having a deep knowledge of the law. You're meant to know what is the practice in the industry, government regulations and policies, and the way they will apply to your clients' businesses. Dr. Dakwe is also of the view that the legal marketplace has also changed significantly. So what are these change drivers? Previously, Richard Susskind had mentioned about 3 of them, and I did mention that Dr. Dakwe has listed about 9 of them, including the ones mentioned by Richard Susskind. Of course, first it starts with demystification of the lawyer. Several factors that have led to a lawyer being demystified, a lawyer that was seen as very prestigious. There were certain things that were only within the exclusive preserve of lawyers, but that is fast changing. There's a quote there by William Shakespeare. I think this was in his play Henry V by that funny character Dick the Butcher. He says, first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. So Dr. Dako presents some posers here. He says, he asks, are lawyer services expendable? Now asks, are there alternatives to lawyer services? Does the lawyer still enjoy that exclusive prestige of being learned? And the next thing you have here is, please don't confuse your internet search with my law degree. I mean, these days you find everything and anything on the internet. The rudimentary things and basic things lawyers used to do before, like drafting opinions, drafting processes, you can find all the templates online. And the unfortunate, in quote, thing is that these things were placed there by lawyers. And these have aided people in demystifying, the prestige around lawyers, some of the things that lawyers were seen as being the only ones that could do previously. Are there alternatives to lawyer services? Of course, you go online, like I mentioned, you see the likes of Up Counsel, Match Legal, having all sorts of templates. And even in Nigeria here, you don't need to go far. You see Institute of Paralegals. You have alternative legal service providers doing some of the jobs that were exclusively provided by lawyers before. Dr. Dakwa has mentioned alternative sourcing and multi-sourcing here. Some of these concepts, They are deeply entrenched in Western climes, and they are gradually encroaching into our climb. Delawyering, it sounds a bit, let's say insulting, but it's happening. You have people who are not trained to be lawyers doing the work of lawyers. They call themselves paralegals. Some call themselves legal consultants. Of course, the NBA, they've been trying to stop these people from encroaching into our territory, but they are still doing that. You have co-sourcing. You have relocating, where lawyers can transfer legal work to areas that they consider to be cheaper in providing those services. Like I said before, most of these things are actually orchestrated by lawyers. And that's why it's important for lawyers to continue reinventing themselves. Okay, I'm trying to go to the next slide here. I think I need help. Next slide. I hope my time has stopped running. Please, can I have the next slide? Or okay. Okay, so the next driver of change is technology. And this one is quite obvious, so I won't spend much time on this. Dr. Dakwa said technological advancements has changed the way markets for legal services are provided, especially in relation to research and communication. He's also mentioned that, sorry, I'm still on the previous slide, that lawyers' tools have changed and the reliance on human effort, human craftsmanship continues to dwindle. The internet has contributed largely to this demystification. Next slide, please. All right, thank you. So legal opinions, like I mentioned before, and other services are available online. You have emergency law firms, emergency virtual law firms. There are a couple of them in Nigeria. They do not need to have any particular or specific residence. So they do not have to be close to clients. They do not have to be situated close to any agency or anything, because they can provide virtual services. All what you need is just a click, and then you can reach out to them. Online dispute resolution is also available, electronic legal marketplace, and artificial intelligence. The significant thing here is this concept of legal marketplace. I mean, it's a new concept. I've been told I have 5 minutes more. I thought I'd only spoken for 5 minutes. Okay, so it's instructive that years ago, the legal profession was seen as a guild, but now it's seen as a marketplace, meaning that anybody can walk into it and walk out of it. So not an exclusive preserve of certain set of people. Next slide, please. So the other driver is new practice areas. There are so many of them. He's listed some of them there. And then, of course, globalization. Most clients are not fixed, or they're not in one particular location. So you would have to explore ways of providing legal services in other jurisdictions. And you have other firms coming in here. Of course, he has said here, the last point, that our protectionist practice is not viable in a globalized market. I mean, they are coming in. No matter how much you do, they will find ways of coming in, either partnering or buying up the law firms and getting Nigerians to practice for them here. Increased competition is also a factor, a driving factor causing the change. The dean mentioned earlier on that when the current set, the 2001 set, were graduating to about 130-somethings in number, but now you have over 300, and that's also reflective in the number of lawyers called to bar every year. He said here in the last 5 years, about 77,009 lawyers have been called to the Nigerian bar and all flushed into the market to compete with the rest of us. So there's something quite interesting that he said. We provide that from the website of EY. I hope there's nobody from EY here. And I think there's a pending court judgment from an Ogun State High Court restraining them from doing it. It was actually a consent judgment, restraining them from providing some of these services and encroaching into certain areas of law. Another driving force is to change harsh economic conditions. And then recent mergers and takeovers. These are all foreign firms. I mean, we've had a couple of them in Nigeria. One of them is, years ago we had LX, people coming together to form LX. So the changing demographics, multi-generational workforce, Today we have about 4 different generations all working together with different orientation, different approaches, different attitude to work. And this all have to be managed. You have the baby boomers, Generation X, which I believe many people in this room belong to, and Generation Y, and of course, Generation Z. Gender balancing. Years ago, there was this gender bias against ladies, but gradually we're moving from, according to Dr. Dakwa Olanifekun, moving from gentlemen of the bar to gentlewomen of the bar. Because according to him, there are more women, gradually more women. We have more women in the profession than men. The impact of COVID-19, this cannot even be overemphasized. The changes it brought to the way we do things in the legal profession, the way we practice, the way our court systems work, especially in the case of virtual hearings. Someone said the other time that had an application and asked the judge whether they could move it virtually, and the judge said, "You're too young to be making such an application." But that is fast changing. People are accepting the fact that there are several changes happening, and some have been driven by COVID-19. So, transition from law practice to law business. Law is now seen as, many years ago, law was seen as a practice, but now there's a distinction. Law practice is seen as a business. So your law practice is your profession, but running a firm is a business and has to be run as a business. Like I said earlier on from the onset, you have to see law. When you're practicing law, you have to understand your client's business, understand the client's needs, not just having a deep knowledge of the law. That is not sufficient these days. He said the profession that lays emphasis on knowledge and competence, enterprise appeals to service, efficiency, liberalism, and sovereign consumer. So adapting to the changes that we're talking about, the changes we've emphasized. Okay, my time is up now. So he suggested several ways of adapting to these changes. One is the need to revisit legal education and training. The distinguished dean had emphasized the fact that there is that infrastructure deficit in the University of Lagos. It's not peculiar to the University of Lagos. You have it everywhere. Even outside the legal profession, there's a need to deal with that from the foundation, focus on practical training, people coming out of law school and all what they know is what the law says without knowing how to apply the law and what it entails to be a practitioner. He's also recommended a new approach to providing legal services, that customer service is the new marketing. The emphasis should be on customer. The approach should be customer-based and not practice-based. Of course, the importance of technology and embracing technology cannot be overemphasized. Commercial awareness is also very important. There's a quote there from Robert Denny. The practice of law is a profession, but the law firm is a business, something I stated earlier on, and must be managed like a business. He stated some of the things that one can do to be successful as a legal practitioner. Emphasis on value. Things are changing, but values are consistent. Values do not change. So we must imbibe those values we were taught in law school, taught by our distinguished lecturers. In as much as we want to succeed, we must not cut corners. Revisiting billing, emphasis to charge less, give more value, and at the end of the day, the client wouldn't mind paying you, so no matter how much you want, so long as the client believes you're providing value. Ingenuity is also very important. It can be the distinction between a business and a successful business. He ends by saying that ingenuity is the key to business development and survival in a changing legal market. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.